Hello, and welcome back to another video about automation. I'm Adax, your Chief Automation Officer, and today we are talking about Zapier and why you should start learning about other tools and other methods to build your automations. Let's start. Okay, so you're probably very familiar with Zapier. Zapier is probably the most popular tool that you can use to build automations, to build no-code automations. And Zapier is great, okay? I started learning about automation with Zapier back in 2017, probably. It was the best tool that I could use and learn back at that time to start learning about automation and to actually start building my first Zaps, my first processes, okay? So Zapier has a very important role in this automation market, right? So it made possible for anyone, almost anyone, start building Zaps and automations. And it is, until this day, probably the best tool for anyone that is just starting out with automation, because it's very easy to use, it's very easy to build Zaps and to connect your tools. So if you don't have any idea about automation, if you're just starting out, you probably gonna go to Zapier to start your automation journey. Okay, that's my recommendation to you. But if you already have some Zaps running, if you have already connected some of your tools using Zapier, this video is for you, okay? I want to talk about why it's important that you start learning and thinking about other tools and other methods and other methods to build automation. Although Zapier is a great tool, it is also very limited in terms of what you can do with automation and with your processes. If you think about just automation tools, there are other ones that I prefer, like make.com or N8N, for example, that those tools have way more capabilities and features that you can use to build more complex automations, right? So for example, I have a scenario on make.com that has more than 1,000 different modules, and it's impossible to build something like that on Zapier, because again, it's very limited in terms of like the complexity of the automations that you can build. So that's why just thinking about no-code automation tools, Zapier is probably not the best one if you want to start building more complex automations. And I thought about recording this video because I talked to a lot of different companies, my clients and some leads, that most of the times the business owners, they think that automations equals Zaps on Zapier. And it's very important that we realize that automation is much more broad than just building some Zaps on Zapier, right? It's the same thing that you think that you are a chef, a top chef, if you just know how to cook like scrambled eggs, right? So it's just the same thing. Again, Zapier is important so you can get started with automations, but you should start learning about other tools and other methods to build automations so you can be able to build more complex automations and systems, right? For example, if you need to automate a process for your company and that process happens inside a software that you use that doesn't have connection to Zapier, you can't automate that through Zapier. So that's just one example. And I've talked to a lot of different companies, bigger companies as well, that they use many different softwares that those softwares, they don't even have an API. So it's not only that it's impossible to connect to Zapier, but they don't even have an API. So how are you going to automate that, right? So that's why you should really start thinking about other ways to build automation. So in those cases, building custom scripts, right? For example, Python scripts or JavaScript scripts, it's important so you can automate those types of processes, right? That again, they're not connected to Zapier, they don't have an API, but they still can be automated. And that's why I say that automation is much more broad than just building some zaps on Zapier. When you combine automation tools, APIs, webhooks, custom scripts, and AI models, you can basically automate any kind of manual task and manual process that you have in your company today. And again, it's not the same as just building some zaps on Zapier. Just so you can have an idea, I run 100,000 operations every day for all the systems and all the automations that I have running for every client that I work with. Less than 5% of those daily operations are running on Zapier, right? They are running on make.com, they are running on scripts, on AI models, and other tools as well. Because again, when I start working with a client, I first understand what are their processes, and especially the ones that they're spending too much time on doing manually, right? And then I go and I build the automations for them. And in those cases, I don't care if what they're doing or what the tool that they're using have connection to Zapier or not, because otherwise it would be very limited. So again, I first understand the problem, and then I go and I build the automation using any solution out there just to make sure that that process will be automated. And again, those numbers just show that Zapier is in fact very limited. So out of 100,000 operations, less than 5% are on Zapier. It means that 95% of all the processes that I automate for my clients, it's very hard to build those automations on Zapier. Again, that's why I say that automation is much more broad than just building some zaps on Zapier. But as I mentioned on the beginning of this video, Zapier is a great tool, especially if you're just starting out, if you're just building your first zaps, if you just want to connect 2 or 3 tools there. But if you want to take your processes, your automations to the next level, you should start learning other tools. Again, learn about make.com, learn about how to build scripts, learn about Axiom, Browse AI, and other tools as well. You're gonna see that there are a lot of different processes that you can automate, but it was impossible to do that on Zapier. And you're gonna start seeing that it's gonna start opening a whole new world for you when you start seeing that automation is much more broad than Zapier, okay? Again, if you want some help to build your automations, and if you want some help to identify the automation opportunities within your company and to actually build the systems and the automations for you, click on the link down below so we can get on a call and I can show you how automation can really help your company scale. Thank you.